Hey, everybody, and welcome. My name is Natalie, and this is Life After a Cult. This is a channel where we talk a lot of cult stuff. We expose the cult mentality. We talk about the traps. We laugh at the absurdities and hopefully unbrainwash ourselves in the process. Hey, everybody in the live chat. It's good to see you. Thank you for being here. I have the menopause fan turned up like full blast, and my glasses are still fogging, which is crazy that I'm putting out this much heat because it's like 60 degrees in my house. They're still working on fixing my heat. Thank you, moderators, for being here and members. Oh, see, I can't look at the chat. Your nice words are just getting me. All right. So today, I was going to do just my regular recap because it's Friday and I do a recap of all things Scientology and culty news, Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, and Saturdays is kind of what I've been doing. But I think I need to talk about this with all of you. It's been a really rough time lately, going into the anniversary of Tony's passing. And I realized a few things about this that are actually good. One of them being that my channel is called Life After a Cult. And my intention when I started it was not just to continue to expose Scientology, and by nature of exposing Scientology, other cults, because they all kind of have the same playbook, but to also share about my life after a cult. And I've done a little bit of that, but not a lot of it, because the main thing that I've been dealing with, as you know, has been the loss of Tony. And before that, it was Tony being sick and dying. And the 1-year anniversary is on June 10th. And I realized something recently, that the more traumatic thing for me, I realized, was not the moment of his death. It was what led up to it. It was watching him die. Not when Tony died, he was at peace. He was comfortable physically. He had a peaceful passing. That wasn't what it was like when he was alive. By the time I took him, when we went into the ICU that weekend, it was really early on Saturday morning, and he died on Monday. When he passed, it was kind of like it was a relief because he was in so much pain. He got so bad so fast. And I was watching some videos that we did together earlier, and I'm going to share a couple clips with you because it's actually those videos that now when I'm going back and watching is helping me today. And I've not watched a lot of it because I thought it would just be too upsetting. I tried a while ago when I was trying to put together some clips, and it was just too hard. And I just started watching them, the videos that I did with Tony here on the channel last year. And now I'm actually finding it helpful, the words that he said. And I think that you might find that helpful as well. So we're going to look at a little bit of that. But I guess the biggest thing I realized is that this is so much a part of my life after a cult. In Scientology, we were never taught or shown how to grieve. And if you were raised in Scientology, that's how you were raised. Not with, what do you do when somebody is sick or dying? You keep working. You keep showing up and doing your job. That's the Scientology way. That is definitely how it was in the Sea Organization. I knew so many people who missed funerals and things like that because they had to keep working. And working doing what? Clearing the planet? For Scientology, that was prioritized over grieving or even being with people we cared about, whether it was at the end of their life or during really happy occasions. And so for me, I feel that it's like I'm learning how to grieve at the same time as we go without a Scientology mentality. And it is so, I guess I realize in that processing it kind of as I go, that's kind of like what I do. I think it's what we all do. And when I looked back at these videos with Tony, I could see that's what he was doing too. It's what we both were doing. And not And you know what the crazy thing is? You guys are probably like, "Well, of course we want you to share this, like, we don't have a problem with that." I'm the one with the problem. I'm the one still fighting this mentality that, you have to just keep working, keep going. I was gonna do a regular recap this morning, I had things together for it, and I woke up and I just knew that wasn't gonna happen. And then I thought, "Well, maybe I'll just skip it." And I thought, "No, maybe I'll just talk about it's been a while since we've really chatted about Tony." And I am gonna look at your comments and stuff. I just feel like I'll really lose it emotionally if I read too many of them right now. But Nancy's helping me start comments as well. So thank you for everybody saying kind words and stuff. Um, when when I left Scientology and started my life after a cult, it doesn't feel like my life really started for some time. It's like it started to a degree, but when you have these ways of thinking that are the only ways you ever knew of thinking or processing grief or loss, that's all that you have. And with Tony, I've been out of Scientology now for 15 years now, so 14 years when he died. And I had decided, I don't wanna process this like I would have in Scientology, and I actually cannot trust my instincts when it comes to grief, processing grief. I have a tendency to just wanna throw myself into work, which sometimes is helpful. It's more helpful than, you know, doing something that would be destructive or not good for me or, burying myself in a case of donuts, as good as that sounds. It's not the way. So I want to show you a couple of things here that really, I think, help me that some of you will remember and some of you might not remember. There were a couple of videos that I did with Tony, and I'm going to start off with, of course, I didn't label my clip, so I don't know. I think I'm starting off with the right one, which is kind of the end. Tony did this video. We did this video 8 days before he died. Of course, not knowing that it would be 8 days later. But that is, that is what happened. It was 8 days after we did this particular video. So, hold on. I think I got it queued up here. Y'all with me here? All right. I see you there. All right, let's take a look at this. Hold on a second here. I think I pulled up the wrong clip. I'm over here watching it. God, I'm a hot mess. Hold on, y'all. Let's reset this. All right, hold on. All right, here we go. I think I got the right one now. Thank you, Northern Girl. I know, Arkansas Flamingo. It does feel like he's messing with me. I mean, look at this hot flash. Holy crap. It is literally 60 degrees in my house, which is why I have a sweatshirt on. And it's like, I agree, Poop 91. I'm like pretty good about this, the technology part. All right, let's try this again. And while you're watching, I'm going to try and pat some of my sweat off. Oh my gosh, I might have to take this. Do I have a shirt on under this? All right, let's try this again.
Learning new skills.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I can do laundry. I just don't do it like how he likes laundry to be done. He likes to separate things and use the other settings on the washer. Like I have never used the other settings on a washer or dryer. I just go normal, no matter what it is. But so we were talking about here the things that we were doing to, you know, knowing that he was going to be gone, things that, you know, we never really thought about. Each of us have taken care of different things in life, and it was that way for like 11 years. And going through the process of having to learn certain things that, you know, responsibilities I hadn't taken care of. And the example here was like the laundry, because he would separate things out and I would just want to throw everything together. And I ruined some of his clothes. And then I got banned from laundry over a decade ago. Which I'm gonna be honest, I didn't hate it. He was so much better at doing it than I was. But the thing is that I realized in watching this video is it's just learning those things that I don't know, right? Or that I'm unsure of doing. The other day, after I came home from Hawaii, I went and I mowed the lawn for the first time in like, I think like 15 years. I hadn't used a lawnmower in about 15 years. And with a little help from ChatGPT and my brother-in-law on how to open a gas can, I was able to do it, and I did it. And I was like, oh my gosh, I've built in my head this being so difficult when I'm doing things that are so much harder. Why can't I mow the lawn? Why can't I figure out feeding myself? Like I'm doing so many other things that I think if anybody looked at would be like, those things would be so hard to do, but you're doing it. And for whatever reason, it's those day-to-day things, because I think it's the things that we did together, right? The things that made your life a life with that person. It's the day-to-day things that hit me hard the most. And the more I start tackling those day-to-day things, the better I feel about, you know, my life without him. I've told you before he died, I couldn't even imagine my life without him. Like literally could not imagine. I could not see it. I can imagine almost anything. In fact, I'm imagining myself on the moon right now with cows jumping over it. But I couldn't see a future that he wasn't in. And he wanted me to see a future, and he would talk about it. And which made me start to imagine that. And every step I take now, I feel like, okay, I'm moving more towards that future that he envisioned even for me, which when you watch some of these videos, the way he talks about the channel, and what, you know, and the support from this community, it was so amazing and touching to me. And let's see if I can bring up the right actual video here. I feel like I've never done this before. Oh God, grief just messes you up in so many ways. All right, so let's see here. I need to stop sharing my screen, and then I need to grab the next one. Okay, I think it was this one. Let's take a look. Tony has educated me. This is why he banned me from laundry 10 years ago. No, that's the same video. He told me never to touch the... Hold on, let's just get rid of that. Okay, here we go. Share screen.
You know, forgive me. I can't recall. There's been so much incredible.
So this was at this time when we did this video here. And why is this like looking? There we go. When we did this video, this was a little bit before the other one, and he was talking about just how grateful he was. We both were, because we had this Amazon wish list going with a lot of the things that would help make him comfortable, and how much he appreciated that. Jojo, I love hearing his voice too. I really do.
Things sent to us that from pillows to blankets to these little things that you get cold and you put on your face, and I mean it's just amazing how much comfort has been abundant around us. I've never been so damn comfortable in my life. It's amazing.
He said to me the other day, at one point, he mostly will sleep in the recliner, but he can lay more flat now, but it still helps to be straight up. And he goes, I feel so comfortable right now. I almost feel bad.
It's just, it's really sweet of all of you. And I sincerely can't begin to thank you. The words, there aren't words for it. Come on. So
yeah, it's like an again and again and again.
Truly.
Greg, thank you for being a member for 2 months. Watching and revisiting those videos and hearing, the gratitude that he felt, even though, he was dying. The first video I showed you, like I said, it was 8 days before he died. And each day he had maybe an hour or two that he could string together, and earlier in the day was better. And as the day went on, the cancer had spread to his brain and he would kind of drift off. He was very tired, but he would fall asleep even standing up. So much I was constantly trying to keep him from not falling into something or falling over, because he would literally be standing there and somehow start snoring and fall asleep. And in the video, I just love that when we talk about some of the things that we did to make things better for ourselves or to try to figure it out, right? Like, how do I wake him up without startling him? Because if I said Tony, he would startle and that would be very uncomfortable. And we figured out that if I make a certain sound, it would wake him up but not scare him. So when he would fall asleep, because what would happen is he'd fall asleep standing up and then bang into things. Which reminds me, I need to figure out how to fix those cabinets too. But anyways, just talking about that. Yeah, Arkansas Flamingo, exactly. Remember the story about him teasing you, Natalie, getting in the wrong car. He was a mess. Exactly. He would get confused, and sometimes he would get up and say he was going to go meet his dad, but his dad had been, his dad died years ago. He would, the day we went to the hospital, I found him in the garage and he said he was applying for a fishing license. It's like he was in between these worlds of being here and then he'd go somewhere else. And in hospice, they said that often happens, even without the cancer being in the membrane of his brain where it was, because the person does start moving on to wherever it is they move on to and have a foot there, but then have this foot also, in this world. And I saw that happening with him more and more, and it really sped up at the, towards the end. But when he was his absolute sickest, which he was in these couple of videos, he was also probably more at peace than I think I'd ever seen him. He came to terms with what was happening. He knew that it was the end of his life. And when he got to that point of acceptance, he just wanted to focus on joy. He played his guitar. He sang, even though his voice was so messed up by the cancer, he wasn't able to get that much air. He still sang and played the guitar days before he died, even when he didn't have the energy to do nothing else. Oh, gross. I got to blow my nose. Entertain yourself, you guys. I will be right back. So when I look back on these videos and my conversations with him at this time last year, I'm glad I watched the videos because I forgot the actual peace that he did feel when he accepted, what was happening. I had not accepted it. So it wasn't as peaceful for me, which is, I mean, how can it be? It was peaceful when he died, that moment. But leading up to these weeks, this time last year, everything was just a mess. I don't know how I was continuing to do anything, but somehow I was, and there was so much to get done and so much to do, plus keep working. And I can see how I was able to do that in large part because of all of you, this YouTube community, and the friends that we made here, and the support that we got, the messages, the cards, all of it played such a role. And at that time, and even since, it's been hard for me to even talk about that part of it because I'm so touched by the kindness. But I want all of you to know, and that's why I wanted to share this, because that is what got me through. When I go back and I look at these things and I read the comments and emails and cards, I see that's so much of what got me through. And that's why I decided today, okay, fine, I feel like a hot mess, but let's just go and talk about this then, because that's what helped, before that community, and revisiting the videos and seeing how at peace he was. Tony approached death with an attitude of, I can't wait to see what happens next. And in watching and seeing him, knowing he knew what was going to happen, if he could be at peace like that and still laugh and find joy, then surely I can approach life like that, as if with the idea that I'm so curious about what's going to happen next. I'm excited about what's happening next. And I do feel that. I've been feeling that more because I've been trying to lean into that example that he set. He was the one who was dying. He was the one who was in pain, physically and emotionally. But, those last weeks, he still showed up with such grace about it and a willingness to share. That video he did 8 days before he died. You know what? I'll try and remember. I need to remember. I'm going to try and remember to link it in the description of this video. Just really showed that. And a year later, going back and looking at it now is helping me. And I'm hoping, I guess, in a way, whether somebody else is going through this or you ever do, maybe it will help. And you were all such a part of making the end of his life peaceful and joyful. So I guess that's why I want to talk to you about this and share this with you, because it just really hit me when I was watching it and remembering that, because he talks about it so much in the videos, how thankful he is for this community. I'm looking for my aloha button. Aloha. Bell notes, thank you for being a member for 10 months. God bless you, Nat. Walking the grief path alongside you has been a blessing, relatable, comforting, and therapeutic. I'm glad. And I thank so many of you for sharing your experiences with me. All right, I'm going to pull up another video and let's see if I have it queued up right. I make no promises. There's this, how did you word it the other day? You said, we were talking about this and I asked him well, how, being that this changes timelines, what are your thoughts on that at this moment? Because timelines, we thought, we went from when he was first diagnosed to, well, maybe, 10 years, right? And then later it became, okay, it's probably looking more like 3 to 5. It's just more time that went on, the more less time he had. And then this time last year, we knew it had spread everywhere and it was just a matter of time. And we were talking about how he was approaching that. And he's like, well, at least we don't have to drag it out.
I don't know. It's just, there's a part of me that kind of feels like, I can have a little bit of extra fun now.
Yeah.
I can be a little goofier than I can be the goofy that I wanted to be, a little bit easier. And what you gonna do about it?
Yeah, exactly. He knows there's nothing I can do about it at this point.
No, but it's about having fun. And, I've said this before in the chats, and I'll say it again. My life, I believe this to be true. you go through heavy periods. There are times where things just couldn't seem like they could get any heavier. But I believe that trying to keep them as balanced with some levity is so important. You might not be able to, like, I think of a teeter-totter in my mind, right? And it's really heavy. And finding a way to bring it back to some center is almost where I can over-exaggerate it sometimes, if you will.
Yeah, I'm sure you
Right.
can't imagine this.
Right,
people.
Liz? 5 more. So.
His whole approach to that end of life, at the time I appreciated it, but I think so much was going on that it's like I didn't process it. And it just really hit me this morning. And I was talking to a friend of mine who I was in the Sea Org with about how ill-equipped we are for loss. But boy, you want something done, we can do it. You need somebody who can get things done no matter what's going on. We're really good at that. Or I should say, I don't want to be good at that anymore. I mean, not totally not, because I need to, because I still got to go to work. I got a meeting today at 12. But you know what I mean? If Tony can look at it with that curiosity and finding joy, knowing that his days were numbered. He said he died 8 days after the last video he did. Then maybe that's the key. Maybe it's, finding the joy where you can find it, but also process and acknowledge the loss. And he and I had so many conversations before he died that helped me. But what really hit me this morning was that the traumatic part of this for me was the weeks leading up to his dying. When he died, it was peaceful. I made sure of it. But everything leading up, it just felt chaotic. And seeing him in pain, seeing the person that you love so much in that kind of pain, that's traumatic. And I think I didn't really realize how much the almost 3 years leading up to his dying, just how traumatic that was, because I was doing what I know how to do. And what I know how to do is to keep going and do what needs to be done. And that's what I did. And I think many people, a lot in my situation or similar situations, sometimes you don't have a choice. If you need to, continue to work, you have to make money, you got to pay the rent, all of this stuff, you have to keep going. But it doesn't mean that, you don't process it in real time. And I know so much more today, or I feel like I know more about dealing with loss than I did leading up to it. And what's been happening, and I spent a lot of time in Hawaii reflecting on this, is me recognizing that trauma, like how actually traumatic it was. I just kept thinking of it's the loss that traumatizes me. It's not having him here. And of course, I miss him. But he was in so much pain that when he died, it was a relief. Because the worst thing was seeing him in that pain. And while he was in all that pain, he was still trying to comfort me, to be there for his kids, playing his guitar and singing. So think about it. If you knew, and we knew he was dying, but we didn't know that it was going to be that fast at the end. If you knew you had 8 days to live, like, how would you spend it? How would you spend today? What would you spend your time on? When Tony came to terms with his dying, he let go of a lot of anger and resentment that he had with people in his past. And you could see it. Like, he got so much more peaceful when he kind of accepted all of that. And I think that's so important. We shouldn't wait until we're dying. Well, a lot of us will never have warning, or a run up to that we're dying. But maybe we should do that now. You know what I'm saying? In life, in terms when it comes to if you can be kind to somebody, be kind. If you care about somebody, let them know. Maybe we give a bit more grace to each other because life is really freaking hard. And that's what I saw him do at the, towards the end, especially. I'm so glad we did these videos because I don't know that I would have remembered that. But watching it, it's giving me strength now. It's reminding me of all the conversations that we had. Now, let me show you this last one here that I don't even know what it's about. I just have it queued up. Yeah.
You get up and you have something to make an impact with today. So whether impact is made or not, I sure do like the idea of seeing impact happen. And I think that if I were someone in viewing me or viewing us in this situation, and I had the opportunity, I would very much so like to learn more about it. And so whatever comfort level I can share as an individual, having a platform in a safe space and place to also share it at the same time equally helps me too.
Yeah.
So thank you for offering your love and support and safe, caring space to do that.
Yeah.
And I think maybe lots of people can take something away in their own way.
And having, I've shared this before. It's sharing with you here. It's like we read, but we don't see a whole bunch of people. So it just feels so much more intimate than I guess realistically it is. I still think that it is.
Yeah, it does.
And because I think we continue to create a community, and that is what makes such a difference for us. Yeah. And I talk to you guys more than anybody.
Well, and you know what? It honestly, I've said this before. It kind of is it's a different way it's alternative in a way where to have a community of people that are supporting you and doing things for you, and you may not even know details about them, yet you're curled up in a body pillow that someone was so generous to give you, that is making your life so much better in this moment. You can only just, have such wonderful feelings for the people here and other places that I arguably maybe had lost some for some reasons.
But, and that body pillow is pretty amazing.
So yeah, everything is amazing. It's just
the things too that brought him comfort that he got a kick out of. That body pillow was one of them. We put on the wish list. It was this big, body pillow, but it really helped him be comfortable because it was hard for him to breathe in certain positions, especially as the day went on. I'm going to catch up on some of your comments here. Jojo point 2, they do become at peace as the worries are gone, and they can just be, and they can show their loved ones the true, real love of life. I completely agree. I want to find a way to hold on to that. I feel like we should be doing that now. And it's so hard. Maybe it's just me. But it's hard, but it does seem to be kind of the secret sauce to life, is to be able to have that kind of an attitude. Poof 911 says, loss, we're all going to leave this life. Whatever your belief system, grief will be there. Why don't we learn about grief in school, in church? Just why isn't it talked about? So weird. I'm glad you brought that up because I'm not sure, because my experience was one of, growing up in Scientology. And even after I left the Sea organization and was living out in the real world for years, still a full-blown Scientologist, I didn't learn really anything anywhere about grief. And I think that's so important. I thought that it was just my upbringing because of Scientology, but the more I hear from people, and especially with this comment, that we don't talk about it enough. It's kind of like you have the funeral and the service and everybody goes home and gets on with their lives as they should. But for, the people closest to that person, you're still carrying it while trying to get going with your life. And one of the things I'm most thankful for when it comes to Tony is him telling me, I want you to have an amazing life. I love you. I want you to have an amazing life. Those are the last words he said to me before they intubated him. and put him on the ventilator. And then on the ventilator, he could sometimes write messages, but sometimes he couldn't. He wrote actually, now that I think about it, he wrote some weird ones on this dry erase board. I might have told you guys this, but it has new meaning today with everything going on with Diddy. This could sound really weird. Natalie, how are you possibly tying this into Diddy? When the doctor came in to kind of give that final, there's nothing else we can do for you, even though we already knew, but I wanted him to say it. I needed to hear it for it to be real. And he explained everything. Tony was awake. And I looked at him and I said, do you understand? And he said, he nodded yes. But then he wanted the dry erase board. So I thought he had questions for the doctor or about the dying process or hospice or what this was going to look like. And he takes the dry erase board and he starts drawing out a pew pew. I'm far enough in the video. I can say gun. And there's names. And he basically wrote, I got to remember who it was. Biggie Smalls. And one other one. Was it Suge Knight? And he put an arrow. He basically said, Diddy killed them. This was his response when the doctor said, there's nothing else we can do for you. Are there any questions? So I don't know. I don't know what that was about. If it was just his brain firing in some way. Aloha to you, SPT Neverin, for becoming a member. And then I just missed Rabbit. Thank you so much. Natalie, love you, girl. Just stopping by to say hello. Good to see you. I kind of lost my train of thought, but I think you kind of get the point. It was like, so I guess on one hand, I'm doing all right, but I'm also devastated. But I think what I'm doing is I'm processing, I'm crying about what I probably should have cried about then, but I couldn't because I needed to keep going and keep the wheels on the bus, which largely has become is because of so many of you that I've been able to do that and have that, get to the point where I'm like, okay, I think I'm ready to engage again with my community. I've been, I mean, my other community here at home in my day-to-day life where I live, all of that. I used to be very engaged. I did a podcast about the area I live in, a blog, and I stopped all of that when Tony's cancer spread to focus on the stuff that honestly, what made me money and taking care of him. And I'm starting to want to do that again. I went into Excelsior the other day, which I've done in the last year, but I always just go and leave. I do what I need to do when I get out of there. And I've had friends reach out to me, be like, Tupac. Yes, Marilyn, it was Tupac. Weird. Yeah, I know. You just never knew. And Tony, his sense of humor, I mean, for all I know, he was trying to be funny. But I remember one time he was writing a note and he wrote, I'm trying to be funny or trying to be funny. I still didn't think it was that funny in the moment, but I appreciate it today. Live, exactly. There's no roadmap for grief. Sometimes you just have to keep driving to find your way. You're doing amazing, Nat, and I appreciate that. Also think it's important to talk about, and I don't like talking about it. I don't like, I like to cry privately in the shower. But I hear from so many of you that are going through something similar, or you've been through it. And one of the things that comes up a lot is it's just not talked about. We go to the funeral and then we leave and we hope that that person is okay. The people that get left behind. And I don't know, it's just interesting. It's such an interesting thing to navigate. And like I said, I went out. So I went to Excelsior. I visited a couple store owners. I cried because I had to tell somebody about Tony. But it was great. And I'm like, okay, I think I'm ready to start engaging that way again, which will be good for me. I, mowed my own lawn. I'm taking care of a plant now. Like these are improvements. I've spent the last, year just trying to keep myself alive and well and sleep and eat well and take my vitamins and do all of the self-care things. Mock, thank you so much for being a member for 13 months. She said there's nothing we can do about but feel the all of it. Laugh out loud, cry away, sit in it, and sometimes do it all together because life's weird. I agree. It's really weird. Real for Life says, I love the fact that I found you from Tonka Talk Minnetonka before this channel. It's good to see you light up when you mention it. Yes, and I'm going to be doing more. I want to start the podcast up again, and I hope to do that, start working on that this weekend, actually. I think I'm finally ready to do it. So, yeah, you'll have to come find me. I forget, Kim, what part of town you're in. Jen Cass says, we appreciate you showing us love, but don't be mistaken. You are the reason you kept the wheels on the bus. You are the strength your heart needed. Tony helped make your heart strong. And that's true. He really did. And going back and revisiting these videos, I'm like, okay, I needed to do that. I think that's exactly what I needed to hear. I want my SPTV. I just lost my husband November 1st, and I think I'm mourning more now than 6 months ago. Grieving is weird and impossible to control. I agree. I'm sorry for your loss. And you're right. And I think that's the thing. And that's the thing I think I'm starting to accept, is that it's something that will be with me. I read or heard something the other day. I forgot where I got this from, but it talked about how your grief and your loss is this heavy, 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 heavy stone. And you carry it around. And in the beginning, you don't think you can carry it, and others help you to carry it. And as you get stronger, it gets easier to carry it. It's not that it's gone. It's just easier to carry it. And I want my SPTV. I believe that to be true, because even though I'm not even a year out, it's a roller coaster, but it's doable. Deborah Jones says, I'm a widow. Death makes people super uncomfortable. That is true. It makes me uncomfortable, which is why things that make me uncomfortable, I kind of want to just go, okay, well, let's dig into this. Let's talk about this. Dusty Soda Dispenser. Good to see you, Dusty. Today is Friday, so we'll see you protesting out in Clearwater tonight. Tony and I were fast friends. I miss him dearly, but from meeting Tony, I also acquired another wonderful friend. I love you, Natalie, very much. Aloha, my friend, and good morning to you. Love back to you, Dusty. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you guys for giving kind words there to everybody too who is saying they've lost someone. Escaping the cultiverse. It's hard to talk about our pain and grief, but it's part of life. So why shouldn't we? We should talk about menopause too. I agree. And I'm trying to do that. It's difficult for me to do here sometimes, because I feel like this morning, I thought, no, this is a recap day. I need to do the recap. That's what I need to do. I need to just show up and do my job still. And then I'm like, Natalie, you're on YouTube. Your YouTube channel is called Life After a Cult. It's about your life after a cult. Well, this is about my life after a cult, trying to figure out how to grieve and heal with tools that make sense, with tools, period. Susie in Paradise says, our culture does not make room for grief. Nobody publicly mourns for a year. We're expected to jump right back into our regular everyday. Your sharing is so helpful to so many. I'm glad you said that, because it helps me understand too, this isn't just me who feels this way because of my cult upbringing. It does seem to be the way that we address and go through grief and loss. And it is uncomfortable because it's difficult to see people we care about in pain. And that's been part of my thing, is wanting to protect people who care about me from my pain, which is, it's a desire, but it's also not something that I can do. If someone is choosing to be there with me, like you are right now, then that's their choice. So I'm trying not to get so stuck on, well, I don't want to make people sad or, stir up their own loss. But at the same time, I have to talk about this. And if it's, Anyways, you guys know what I mean. I think you're here for it. And I appreciate your patience with me and letting me kind of do this, as I need to, because there's times where I wanted to talk about it and didn't because it just didn't, it felt too overwhelming to do so. Real for Life says, this is a great topic for me as an ex-Mormon, I'm assuming. I haven't had a loss since my shelf broke. I think grief will be different outside of indoctrination. Exactly that. Grief is different outside of indoctrination. And that is, I think, what I'm figuring it out. Mock said you learn to live with it and ride the bull better by learning when to hold on and when to let go and get back on. Mock, I literally used that exact example when I was talking to my friend this morning. I said almost exactly that. I said, I feel like I've been riding a bull for 3-4 years now because it's been almost a year since he died. And holding on and just going with it, it's kind of all I knew how to do. But you're right. That's so funny that I swear sometimes I feel like you're in my head. Tony Hoban, thank you. Jumping in to hit the like and send you all the love. Thank you for sharing your grieving process with us. It helps so many of us. I'm glad. And I think it's something that is good to talk about. Amber, hope to see you in July. We could talk about all kinds of stuff if you want. I would love that. Amber's going to be in Minnesota and we're going to figure out how to get together. We will. I want my SPTV. I also think we mourn past loss. We don't really mourn because it's our loss. But when I lost my husband of 30 years, it all came crashing down. It was my turn. It was my greatest loss. I get that. Jojo, book a little trip for you to look forward to that helps me when times are hard. That's why I went to Hawaii for 2 weeks. And honestly, I think having all of that time in Hawaii to walk the beach and look for shells and just kind of marinate and be with my thoughts without all this other distraction that keeps me busy, I think is a huge part why I'm feeling what I'm feeling right now. And I think it's a good thing. I actually do. I think it's a good thing. I think this is more a sign of healing. The Real Life School says, even outside of a cult in corporate America, you're lucky if your employer has bereavement leave, and it's usually only 3 days. We don't honor grief as we should. I agree. Shauna B, on the contrary, these talks you so graciously share with us help many of us. I've been riding the grief train for a few years. Yeah, and another thing, when I was talking to my friend, we realized it's just, because we're like, learning how to do something, learning the tools for it kind of for the first time, when that wasn't, how you were brought up. And whether you were in a cult or not, I think so many of you relate to that because of what you guys are saying. We don't talk about grief. It just seems almost like something, grief and loss seems almost more secretive than porn. Maybe I'm wrong about that now that it came out of my mouth. I don't know. But you know what I mean? It's like, why don't we talk about it? Because it's painful and we don't like to focus on things that are, that are painful or make us feel uncomfortable. Some of you have some really great answers too to the question of the day that are just blowing my mind here. What do you do, right? What do you do? I forgot what it was. Something about what do you do to find that healing after a loss. Francisco, thank you for doing 5 Life After a Cult memberships. And if I said thank you already, thank you again. My brain is not firing fully. What's something that gave you comfort during a season of loss? And I am taking such comfort in a lot of what you guys are saying. Linda Lou says, sometimes you need to pause, autopilot, and redirect your emotional needs. That is very true. Very true. Real for Life says, living in each moment, staying connected to people as individuals. I think that's a huge help. And that's what I've realized recently is I stay connected online, right? You guys see me almost every day, but I've not been connecting with people here where I live. But I am starting to do that now. So that is a good thing. SP Danny, every man lives two lives, and the second one begins after he realizes he's only got one. My favorite quote ever. Oh, that makes so much sense. And I saw that happen. I really saw that happen with Tony. Mock says, knowing life is short enough to absolutely live it and celebrate the good, the bad, and the real. That's a great way of doing it, too. Haggis Basher says, photos, memories, and my dreams. That's what helps bring you peace there. I love it. Candace says, you're stronger than you think you are. You have a big heart. Tony's seen it. I appreciate that he shared you with us. We all love you to hold you up. I appreciate that a lot. And I think we can do that for each other. And I'm going to try to, I want to make sure that I don't just gloss over so much right now, right? As I try to figure out my life and create a new life for myself. And I'm so thankful to have YouTube and to be able to talk about these things with all of you, because it's also a record for me to be able to go back to a year ago. And I've been really stuck in the memories of what I saw, and how it felt. But then when I watched those videos, I also remembered how resilient he was and how beautiful it was in a way, because every moment counted. And I can't help but think that, could we live our lives that way, where every moment counts, where things that are annoying or irritating or bother us, that we just let it go, that is just not as important, and focus on the things that are, and having more grace for other people and the way that they annoy us. I think that we can. And I hope to. Not always easy, but I hope to. Thank you, Dr. MLS. You helped me so much with your grief. Farrell Cheryl, hugs to you, my friend, as well. I know you've been going through it a lot similarly, and I'm glad that we, have each other that way. And that's the great thing about YouTube. Nobody is going through, you don't need to go through things alone. Always Tuck and Roll says, society likes to hide the suck in the dark corners to fester. It seems like people are afraid to feel. Feeling feelings is when we're at our most human. Let's all be human together. That makes a lot of sense to me, and I agree with you. And coming from a place where I was so, rewarded, and even later, like with my ability to keep going and get things done, being resilient is a good thing, and it comes in handy, but it's not because of Scientology. It's in spite of Scientology. I got 2 earbuds in and one isn't even doing anything. Queen of Karma. I was thinking about you the other day. You popped in my head because I'm like, I don't think I've seen Queen of Karma in a little while. I try to live life that way, but people do make it hard sometimes, right? I know. Always like to say, you trying to sabotage my walk with Jesus. You just making me want to choke you out right now, but I'm not going to do it. So I hear that. I want my SPTV. It's so hard to watch someone so strong and amazing grow weak and sick. It's like losing someone piece by piece. Exactly. And it's that losing him piece by piece last year, especially, that I don't think I processed. It was just keep going, keep going, keep going. And I'm processing it now. And so many of the tears that I'm shedding today is the crying that I probably could have done back then, but I wanted to be strong. I didn't want him to wake up when he would fall asleep and wake up to this. I wanted him to see me smiling, and he wanted to experience joy. And there was still crying. I mean, don't get me wrong. Even my last private moment with him, and I don't think I've talked about this, when I was saying goodbye, right before we took him off the ventilator, I think I was the last one to say goodbye. Everybody, I made sure that, the people were there had their time to say goodbye to him, and he was awake. And I think for the first time, in fact, I know it, since he got really sick, I just allowed myself to let him see how much pain I was in. I know he knew it. He knew it more than anyone. But I always wanted to be strong for him. And I kind of laid on top of him and he put his arms around me. Well, more accurately, I had to help put his arms around me. Sorry, that's kind of dark to laugh at, but he would have laughed. But he held on to me and he was rubbing my back and I just cried. And he was comforting me. The man who was dying. And I'm glad we had that moment because I also didn't want him thinking that this wasn't a big deal to me. And I don't think he thought that. But, I was just so focused on taking care of him that I wasn't focusing on my loss or my grief. And honestly, I think that's what I needed to do at that time and to be there for our family. So I don't regret that. I think in a way, it's like my brain just protected me from feeling all of this then so I could do what I had to do. And now it's coming out. And that is a good thing. I agree, Candace. He knew. He did know. Oh. Yeah, it was Susan. It really was. And then I think, I don't even remember now how long. I wasn't long. It was maybe an hour. It could have been longer. I'm completely blank. I'd have to go look at paperwork to see once we took him off the ventilator, how long it was before he died. It wasn't long. And I've shared this with you. So I said my goodbye then. And then the doctors were all going to come in to take him off the ventilator. And they said, you can't be in here when we do that. And you don't want to be anyways. And so Tony had told me in the past, he said that if that time comes and he's dying and looks painful and stuff, that he did not want his boys to see that. And amazingly, the timing, the boys had just gone on a walk. And the time it took to get him off of the ventilator and then medicated enough to not be fighting for air. And those are the things that I realized when I was going through it when he's home and looking at, because I took videos of him that I was sending to the doctor in the 2 weeks before he died, just trying to get them to do something to help him be more comfortable. And at home, there was nothing else that they could really do. And so when in the end, I shared with you guys right after it happened, how he died. He passed right at the end of that Tim McGraw song, Humble and Kind. I mean, the last note, and his head turned towards me and he was gone. He had just stopped breathing. It was peaceful. His kids were there. We were there. We were there together. And that's why I think about it. And I think his actual dying is not what was traumatic. It was what led up to it. So yeah, I'm processing that. And I think it's going well because I'm letting it out in between. Like I said, I have a meeting I have to be at in 2 hours and I will clean myself up and it'll be fine. And maybe I'll cry there, maybe I won't. But I just know that if I'm happy, when I'm happy, I'm going to be happy. And if I'm sad and I'm experiencing grief, then I'm going to do that. Somehow I'm able to have both. This last year plus has been the worst and the best at the same time. And I'm not sure how that's possible. But I've had so many amazing moments with him and without him. And then I've had just the worst. most painful moments of my life. And in going through this, it helped me to see that it's very possible that we don't have to be completely disabled by loss or whatever it is that we have going on. We are sometimes, but we live in a world where we can learn. We have tools, we have medication. God bless Ativan. Which I got to say, sidebar, I do get a slight kick out of the fact that I take psychiatric drugs once in a while when I need it. Office of Special Affairs, you don't know what you're missing. It helps so much. And I've had to use that when the grief has just gotten so overwhelming that I feel disabled. And fortunately, that's few and far between. I think I've like needed it once in the last 6 weeks, but I got a feeling I'm going to use it more leading up to the 10th. And then getting there, I really want it to be, I'm trying to look at the anniversary of his passing, not just as a loss, but as a celebration that I made it. And when I think about Tony, I feel like I can just see him cheering me on and celebrating like, you made it. You almost made it. A year, because I said, if I can make it, if I can survive 1 year of this, of living with this pain, then I know I can do it for the rest of my life. And I'm almost there. And though I feel kind of like I'm limping to the finish line, and it's not even a finish line because it's not just going to stop because it's been 1 year, but I will have shown myself that I can get through Christmas, Thanksgiving, New Year's, his birthday, Mother's Day, Memorial Day, which is a holiday here in the States. For you outside of the US, it's on Monday. I can get through these things. I can survive it. So I've proved to myself that this is survivable. And yeah, that's right, Mock. Even if I'm stumbling to the finish line, it's still reaching it. And I am so grateful for all of you who've been here and who continue to be here and support me here on YouTube with what I'm doing, but also even personally. That means so much to me, which is why I want to share the good, the bad, and the ugly of it, even though I don't really want to. I think it's important because it's what so many of you said, right? We don't talk enough about grief. And so maybe in sharing about mine and what I'm going through, it can be helpful because I found that helpful. The women who reached out to me with advice and their own experience was so helpful because, again, they survived it too. And from MA says, the hardest day for me isn't the anniversary of his death for me. It's our wedding anniversary. That lays me out. I know I can get through it. I've done it twice now, but it hurts still. I totally get that. And I think wherever you are with your, grief or loss, it's like just today is important. Just get through today. For me, it started off like, I just got to get through the next 30 minutes. That's how I did it. Sometimes people ask me like, how did you do it? I'm like, I took it 30 minutes at a time, sometimes 5. I need to just get through the 5 minutes. If I can do 5 minutes, I would do 5 minutes. Okay, I'm going to do 20 minutes now of humaning. Hold on, I got to blow my nose. So maybe whatever you're doing or trying to do or trying to get through, if it's really hard, break it down. Do it for 5 minutes, then do it for 10, then do it for 30, then an hour. And then for me, it became, I just got to get through today. I'm going to do today. And that's all I would focus on. Then I started thinking more about what's going to happen the next few days and planning into next week, but still focusing on the day I'm in. And even though I'm healing more and I'm creating a new life for myself, I don't want to stop doing that. There is something magical about, all that. It always sounds cheesy. You just got to be in the moment. You just got to be in the now. It's like, that's so easy to say when things are great. because you want to be in the moment and enjoying yourself. When I was on the beach in Hawaii, I didn't want to be anywhere else. I wanted my mind fully present. But it's a lot harder to be present when it's painful. But when we are, I'm finding that I get through it faster if I don't try and avoid it, because I do try to avoid it. I try to avoid the pain. I try to avoid the grief. It just doesn't always, I'm not successful at that, thankfully. But I'm trying not to avoid it as much. That seems to be, I think, the key as well. Just face it, feel it, get through it, release it, honor that person, honor his memory. I'm still figuring out what I'm going to do on the 10th, whatever it is. I think it's going to be quiet. We shall see. But I'm going to do my best. I'm going to I'll keep you posted. That's right. Or weep and sleep when you're having a hard day. Yeah, if you can, do it. We just got to be able to do that. But I think it's all good. And I think by processing it now, I'm not going to be dealing with it in other ways later, as much as I don't want to do this. Sometimes I just think I could just easily compartmentalize it like I did, when I was in Scientology, but that's not handling it. That'll be worse. That's how I ended up with autoimmune diseases and other issues, not processing that trauma. This is different. I'm not going to do it like that. So I feel like I'm missing a lot of comments and questions, but Linda Lou says, sometimes you need to pause autopilot and redirect your emotional needs. That is so true. Very much so. I'm going to go and read all your comments here afterwards and get caught up on that. If you're on the replay, jump in the comments too. I don't always respond because I'm usually scrolling, but I do try to read as many of them as I can, and I appreciate it. And I want to thank all of you for being here and for continuing to be here. I do have a lot of cool things planned for the channel, interviews, recapping a lot of culty stuff. There's a lot going on. And I will, of course, be getting back into more of that. But from time to time, I'm just going to let you know what's happening as well in my life after a cult as I figure it out. So thank you guys. Hit that like and subscribe on your way out. And I will probably see you tomorrow. I hope you all get out and have an amazing cult-free day.